Hello and welcome to Creating a Personal Narrative. Here I'm going to explain to everyone how you're going to create your own personal narrative, what a personal narrative is, and the 4 steps you have to take to get it written. So let's start at the beginning. A personal narrative is your own story about something that happened to you and what you learned from it. So everybody saw today from my example the story of the cheating that happened in math class and how that student chose not to cheat. All right, that personal narrative, that story came from this process that you're about to do. All right, so important for you to know. You're going to be graded on these 3 points. Your personal narrative must have a beginning, middle, and an ending. It must share your thoughts and your feelings, and it must explain why the event, why what happened is important to you, what lesson you learned from it, if it was about honesty, about kindness, or generosity. All right, those are the 3 things that your personal narrative must have. So let's start with step 1. Step 1 is pre-writing. When we pre-write, we think about the events that we remember and what we learned from them. And we're just going to be making a list here as we pre-write. So if I were doing this, I would be thinking about all the different things that happened that I could write about. So I know, because I've already done this, that I chose to write about the cheating that happened in math class. So how I chose not to cheat in math class. And this is important to me because this taught me that honesty is most important. Important. Okay. But there are other things I could have chosen to write about. I could choose about moving to the US from Brazil. And I could choose to write about that because that taught me that flexibility is most important. Flexibility, that means being able to change, being able to get used to new places, being able to say goodbye is important. I could write about when my grandfather died. And an important lesson that I learned from that was that it's important to spend time with family. All right, family is most important because I hadn't spent as much time with my grandfather as I would have liked to. And when he died, it was a lesson for me that taught me how important it is to spend time with your family when you still have them. You know, I could come up with 3, 4, 5 more different examples here, which you should as well. But for the purpose of this video, because I want to keep this video short for all of you, I'm just going to put these 3. I expect all of you to have, 5 or more different things that you could write about. All right, so step 2 is gathering the details. So I'm going to pick one of those events, and I'm going to put details about what happened in that event. All right, and as I'm writing about that, I'm going to write where I was and what happened, what I was thinking and feeling, and what the problem was and how it was solved or fixed. So as we know, the problem was students were going to cheat in math class. That was the problem of my personal narrative. All right, so where was I when this was happening? So there were a few different places where I was. I was in math class, was in the hallways, I was at home. All right, there's 3 different places I was in school when this was going on. So what happened in my story? So I remember that what happened is in the hallways, a classmate told me he was going to cheat on the test using an answer key. His friends told me they were going to make copies of the answers and cheat too. I talked to my friends about it. Some of them wanted to cheat, others didn't, and I had to make my own decision about what I was going to do. So what I thought and felt. I felt pressure from my friends to cheat, to do something I thought was wrong. I felt annoyed at the situation because the math class was hard, it was just difficult, everyone was frustrated, which is another feeling. I felt frustrated at the difficult math class. All right. Most of all, I think I felt confused. I kept wondering, what is the right thing to do? So what I have here so far is the problem. Students are going to cheat in math class, where I was, what happened, and what I thought and felt. And now I'm going to put how the problem was solved. I chose not to cheat. I studied for the test, and I refused to accept any help from my classmates. I did not use the answer keys. I did it all by myself. So in the end, some students cheated and got higher scores, but I didn't cheat, and I still got a good score. So that brings us to step 3, organizing your ideas, putting your ideas in the order in which they happened. So in the beginning, I remember I was sitting in math class. I felt frustrated when the teacher announced that we would have a math quiz. All right. I remember hearing students making comments and acting upset. And still in the beginning, in the hallway, a little later that day, I remember students from class were talking about how they were going to cheat using an answer key. One of them had found an answer key, was going to make copies of it, give it to their students, and they were going to cheat on this math test. This all happened in the beginning, and of course they asked me if I wanted a copy of the answer key. They wanted me to cheat with them. In the middle, and that brings me really to the middle of the story, I, felt confused about what to do. I didn't think it was right to cheat, but everyone was doing it. I spoke with my friends. Some of them wanted to cheat, others didn't. I had to choose.